शिकृते नमोस्तु सततम् आत्मने. Friends, I'm speaking to you from Rishikesh, a very small and a typical North Indian town where the summer showers have subsided and this is the end of September and the October heat is on the way. Friends, the topic today is a verse from Bhagavad Gita, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhaha kalenatmani vindati. This verse occurs in chapter 4, number 38. We find that this particular verse says that there is nothing more sanctifying, purifying in human life than the knowledge. And this knowledge is attained by those who are accomplished in yoga. Hence, we need to discuss a few points over here. When it is said that the impurities are removed, we find various impurities. We also find that our minds are confused. There are various social factors. There are various personal factors which are responsible, which we find are responsible for bringing various miseries to the world, to human beings. When this verse speaks about knowledge as the sanctifier, as the purifier, it means knowledge is that means. Knowledge is that upaya through which though the very root cause of dukkham, of misery, is removed. Because we find people coming up with several solutions, whether those solutions are economic solutions, social solutions, political solutions, or even religious solutions. And each one of them has an equal claim of being potent in removing the misery. Bhagavad Gita has handled the very basic, the fundamental problem of human existence, and which is the cause of misery. Though every person in his social life or his personal life singularly aims at annihilation of dukkham, an attainment of happiness, yet we find that people are disappointed, yet we find that nobody can ever say that dukkham is altogether mitigated. Therefore, whether the person is rich or poor, educated or uneducated, whether the person, no matter which religion he may belong to, and yet there is a single and cry from all over the world, and there each one is saying that we are still miserable. I am still miserable. Therefore, we are now forced to conclude that various solutions have been suggested. Those solutions may have been temporal solutions, but none of those solutions have worked to mitigate the dukkham altogether. Though every philosophy, every theology has emerged with this basic idea, and yet we find that the world is drowned in various miseries caused by those theologies or the religious systems. Therefore, there is one thing if we have to sincerely say, and that is rejection of those solutions which otherwise simply promise but do not deliver. Here Vedanta makes a pratisya, a proclamation that knowledge is the solution. Knowledge can remove this impurity. Knowledge can remove that very cause of dukkham. When it is said so, we have only one thing to say, and that is knowledge is directly opposed to ignorance. Knowledge is only responsible for removing ignorance. And therefore, how could one say that knowledge can remove misery? The conclusion, or even to begin this discussion, is that the beginning is knowledge is the solution, and the conclusion also has to be knowledge is the solution. People are saying that the knowledge has grown in the world. We have progressed. The science has opened up several avenues. There are different branches and systems of knowledge, and yet there is an increasing misery, level of misery in the world. How then can you say that knowledge can remove ignorance? Vedanta begins by handling this problem of misery. And when we are saying there is misery, if you observe it closely, the insecurity or even the pursuit of pleasure, no matter how much pleasure one may pursue, no matter how much security one may pursue, and yet one finds that he is inadequate. This, to put this in Vedantic terms, it means that artha and kama purusharthas cannot be really responsible to remove, mitigate total misery. Because the sense of incompleteness, the sense of inadequacy still ponders over the person, leaves him asking for more and more. What more is he asking is irrelevant, but that person is left lurching, asking for more and more and more. Thus, the sense of limitation, the sense of inadequacy, the sense of incompleteness, which we say in Vedanta as paricchinnata, continues to be with a person even after he may achieve and accomplish various desires. And therefore, how then could the sense of incompleteness go away? There doesn't seem to be any solution, because all that can be delivered by karma doesn't seem to be. Karma means action, which can bring you security, which can bring you pleasures, which can bring you wealth, which can bring you power. Yet leaves a person asking and asking for more. This solution, the solution for this problem, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, is knowledge. Knowledge means not the knowledge of chemistry, biology, or any material sciences. Because we are very clear in saying that whatever may be called as knowledge now means that one has begun in ignorance, not knowing what it is, and on having made an inquiry, one progresses, and then having made a little progress, the question still remains, I don't know. For example, a person looks at a drop of water and he says, I don't know what it is. And he progresses to say that it is water. Then arrives a question, what is this water? The immediate reply is, I don't know. And when a person still makes a further inquiry, he says that it is 2 molecules of hydrogen and a single molecule of oxygen. And on making a further inquiry what that molecule is, the immediate reply is, I don't know. Science keeps on progressing. It claims to have known, but it ends in ignorance. Therefore, the beginning is ignorance. It finishes in ignorance. Therefore, all these material sciences, they may have a utilitarian value, but it is not that knowledge which Sri Krishna is talking about. Because knowledge is that which has the capacity to remove the misery. Knowledge has that capacity to remove ignorance once and for all. If something is claimed to be knowledge, and if it is replaced by another theory later on, which means that what was called as knowledge before was an error, though that became a progressive step, yet it was an error. Error is not knowledge. Error is not knowledge. Error is an error. There is erroneous knowledge, but erroneous knowledge is not knowledge. Erroneous knowledge is an error. Friends, therefore, that knowledge which Sri Krishna is talking about, that knowledge which Vedanta Upanishad speaks about, is not a knowledge which is a progressive knowledge. It is firm. It is established. It is Siddhavastu. All that is required for knowledge to take place is operation of appropriate means of knowledge. That ignorance, how does one say that ignorance is the cause of misery? We find a person may lack good health, and that could be his cause of misery. Another person may say that I have been neglected by my parents, and therefore emotional inadequacy is my problem, is my misery. A third person may say that I am unemployed, and therefore economic inadequacy is my problem, that is my dukkham. How do you say that ignorance is the cause of dukkham? Vedanta has to answer this question before it can suggest you the means of acquiring knowledge. Because the premise on which it has to work is this, that ignorance is the cause of dukkham. And by removal of this ignorance, which is possible only through knowledge, that misery or suffering will end. When we are saying ignorance is the cause, it means that not knowing that this Atma, the self, is Purnam, is limitless, is infinite, is complete. Not knowing this, one knows himself as the experiencer, as the doer. One knows himself as an inadequate, small little person, and he struggles in this world with his smallness to eradicate this inadequacy, to eradicate his sense of limitation, to eradicate his sense of incompleteness. If he feels that he is incomplete due to emotional lack, he may search for an emotional support. If he finds that he suffers because of economic lack, he is going to look for money and money earning solutions. But he fails to recognize that the sense of inadequacy, the sense of incompleteness, tends to haunt the person, tends to chase the person, whether he is rich, richer, or the richest, whether he is knowledgeable, more knowledgeable, and most knowledgeable, whether that person is politically powerful, more powerful, or most powerful. Though he may have all these things, yet the sense of inadequacy which goes along with him, which breeds the sense of insufficiency, the sense of limitedness, the sense of insecurity, the search for pleasure, is there. And Vedanta says that this Atma is Purnam Sachidanandam. Anantam, not knowing that this is what Atma is. One has imagined the Atma, the self, to be incomplete, and therefore that incompleteness, which is the misery of a human being, is due to the ignorance. And knowing alone is the solution. A person can become perverted in his search for power, in his search for recognition, in his search for position, more and more and more and more. A person may commit heinous crimes. A person may commit terrible sins. A person may breed a horrible system, whether it is in the name of religion or whether it is in the name of political aggrandizement or economic progress. All this is happening because there is that perverted sense of incompleteness. And therefore, it is this ignorance which is responsible for breeding misery in human life. This ignorance can be removed only through knowledge. It is not through going somewhere, doing something, gaining something, attaining something, procuring something, that this ignorance would end. The ignorance ends with dawn of knowledge. And knowledge comes with employing the appropriate means of knowledge. I will explain this thing. Let me explain you this with a classical example of the Rajju Sarpa. This example is the most potent example. Not knowing it is a rope, a person imagines, or it is imagined to be a snake. There is no voluntary imagination, but that ignorance, not knowing that it is a rope, that itself projects the snake. And then there is fear. There is insecurity. There is fear. And this fear of the snake is not going to go away by chanting holy names, by running helter and skelter. It is not going to go away by somebody doing pranayama and entering into samadhi. The only way that fear is going to end with the ignorance about the rope. Once when the light is switched on and your eyes are able to meet the rope without any obstruction, the knowledge takes place by itself. It is a rope. The snake disappears, and the subsequent fear, insecurity, all those things which are projected by the ignorance are all washed away. Therefore, the pollutant which was creating the misery in life has been washed away, has been removed. And thus, with this example, we know that ignorance is responsible. It can bring about, as much as it can bring about the fear, the insecurities, so also that ignorance can bring about tremendous greed, tremendous anger, tremendous hatred. And it will be reflected in this personal life. It will be reflected in your social life. It will be reflected in the organized religions which promise to bring peace, but they land the entire society, making them more and more insecure. They talk about pleasures in the heaven, and in order to have those pleasures, they finally land, make the people do heinous crimes, which otherwise even animals would not do. And therefore, ignorance can convert people. Those theologies, those religions also have their origin in ignorance. They promise to remove misery, but nobody sees that misery has got its beginning in ignorance. All of them are talking about mitigation of human misery. Some of them are going to tell you that by going to the heaven, your misery will be mitigated. But by having gone to the heaven, how is this misery going to go away? Because you still will remain incomplete, inadequate. And that sense of limitation, which is the cause of jealousy, greed, crimes, inadequacy, is still going to chase you even if you went to the heaven. And therefore, by changing the place, by promising you a special land, by promising you a place in the heaven, these religions and theologies have totally created the earth as inhabitable. And therefore, there is a very important message. There is a very important thing to be noted over here, because it is only in Vedanta do you find that knowledge is shown as to be the solution. Knowledge which removes ignorance, the pollutant, the creator of misery, and therefore knowledge is called as the most sanctifying one. Knowledge is called as that which will release a person from dukkham. Knowledge will release the person from ignorance, which is the cause of dukkha. Knowledge takes place when a person employs the appropriate means of knowledge. This is another topic which we should see now. When you open your eyes, and when you have a healthy set of eyes, and there is adequate sunlight or light, the objects are illumined by that light, and your eyes are able to meet the object, the knowledge of that object takes place. The knowledge of colors and forms takes place when your eyes are able to meet the object. The knowledge of sound takes place when your faculty of listening, hearing is able to meet the sound. Therefore, when there is a means of knowledge, the knowledge takes place. Therefore, there are two things to be seen over here. One is employing the right means of knowledge, and anything which is creating a hindrance in making those means meet the object have to be removed. Over here, the object to be known is Atma, and Atma is Brahman, is what one has to know. Vedanta is the Shabda Pramanam. When you listen to the words of Vedanta through the teacher, these words by itself will become the Pramanam, the means of knowledge to function. And when there is no hindrance, when your mind is free from all the other hindrances, all the other obstacles which will prevent the knowledge from taking place, the knowledge has to take place. There is no choice, but knowledge has to take place. And therefore, all that is required by a person to do is two things: to remove those hindrances, those obstacles, which are not allowing the Shabda Pramana to function, and acquiring the Shabda Pramana so that the knowledge takes place. This topic is further elaborated in the same chapter. Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati. In the same verse, he says the one who is accomplished in yoga, one who is accomplished in yoga is a person whose all raga dveshas, likes and dislikes, all his repulsions and attractions are subsided. Then that person has now become free to operate the means of knowledge. A person may have Vedanta, but if his mind is full of raga dveshas, the knowledge will not take place. It will still remain, making a person say that he is a jiva, he is incomplete. And that is what people are saying, that we have knowledge but we don't have any experience. Sir, you have knowledge, but you don't have knowledge, you have the means of knowledge. You may have means of knowledge, but that means of knowledge is not operational. You may have a healthy set of eyes, but if your eyes are covered with some mucus, the eyes won't be able to illuminate the colors and forms, and even if it illuminates, it is going to be distorted. And this is what happens. One has the means of knowledge, and that means of knowledge is not operational because there are these various obstacles which are preventing the means of knowledge, Shabda Pramanam, from functioning. Therefore, friends, all the other yoga, which means the karma yoga athava samadhi yoga, also have a place. The karma yoga has a place, bhakti yoga has a place, the upasana has a place, the samadhi yoga has a place, and its place is in bringing about the maturity of a person. Don't expect this maturity to arrive as a result of chronological progress in time. This maturity which we are saying is maturity to dissolve, to resolve the raga dveshas, the various obstacles preventing the knowledge from taking place. Thus, when that maturity, I am going to translate the word yoga samsiddha as a mature person. When a person is thus mature, when he has resolved all the raga dveshas, or he has come to a point where he may have the ragadveshas, but those ragadveshas are no longer an hindrance in acquiring the means of knowledge. Those ragadveshas are not going to prevent him from approaching the teacher, serving the teacher, asking the teacher to impart the knowledge to him. Friends, when this is there in life, when there are no other distractions, when there are no other distractions pulling you away, then the person has acquired that maturity. That maturity means the person has lived a very fruitful life. Otherwise, the person may become old, 60, 70, 80, and 90. The person will still remain immature, asking for more and more and more and more. And as he becomes old, his demands become acute because his body, his mind is incapable of doing it himself. He has to depend on others, and that dependency breeds in a sense of disappointment, a sense of frustration. Therefore, that maturity means as the person is living the life, as the person is living an active life of a grihastha, that person should strive with a singular aim, and that is to settle these ragadveshas. Once these ragadveshas are settled, the person can go and seek refuge at the feet of the teacher and say, Adhihi Bhagavan Brahmeti. O teacher, please impart me, please tell me that what this Brahman is. And the teacher says that this Brahma, that what is limitless, that what you are seeking, the limitless joy that you are seeking, the total annihilation of dukkham that you are seeking is this Atma. And therefore that what is liberation, that what is moksha is another name of this self. If I had to frame myself in Hindi, we would say, avidya nivritti se upalakshit, Atma ko hi moksha kehte hain. That what is indicated by the destruction of ignorance, that Atma, the self which is indicated by the removal of ignorance, is called as liberation. Liberation, enlightenment is not a special experience to be gained. It is not a place to be reached. It is not a state of mind to dwell. Otherwise, if it is an experience to be gained, it is a state of mind to be gained, then that person will have a state of mind and lose that state of mind. The experience can be gained and lost, and therefore, though one may have an experience, but one continues to be ignorant. The very pollutant, the breeder of dukkham, stays over there. Enlightenment or total annihilation of dukkham is removal of ignorance. And therefore Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, it is knowledge, it is knowing that this Atma is Brahman, is what is the solution. And he whosoever knows will be free. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparas samyatendriyaha jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. The one who lives a life of this conviction, that by doing the karma in the spirit of karma yoga, one will be able to free himself from that ragadveshas. Then that person, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam, he becomes capable of receiving the knowledge. Samyate indriyaha, one who is not vishayalolupa, one who is not given now to the pursuits of sense pleasures, because he has known that no amount of pleasures are really going to please him. And when you are seeking pleasure, it means you are displeased with yourself. Sanyatendriyaha Janam Labdha Param Shantim. And thus, he who attains this knowledge as a result of karma yoga that one has lived, acquiring the appropriate means of knowledge, listening to the teacher about Atma being Brahman, Param Shantim Achirena Didakshati, one attains Parashanti, the total, absolute peace. Then one no longer has any conflicts. One no longer is a problem to himself. When one is no longer a problem to himself, he cannot be a problem to the world. Now he has become a solution and not a problem. When we are living in this world, let us become a solution to the world and not a part of the problem. Friends, thank you very much. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Vibhaji.
Pranam Swamiji.
Pranam.
One question. I will
Yes,
unmute
please.
Mr. Ranjan Desai. He has raised the hand.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Ranjan Desai.
Namaskar, Swamiji. It was very nice hearing you. And the last second verse that you said afterwards, that's the chapter 4. The next verse 39 is what is very true. I mean, I was wanting to ask you about that. I mean, if you're going to tell the people about that knowledge is the highest sanctifier, and if they are if a person is hungry and if the hunger is not satisfied, or if a person is unemployed, as you said, if that is not, and if you go to, and tell this that knowledge is the highest sanctifier, unless those things are satisfied, they will not be able to attain that, right? I mean, he has to master the senses first. So that was very apt of.
What you say is true. Mr. Desai, we have created a structure of society which prevents a person from maturing. The rishis of Upanishads, the Vedas, have created a structure of society in which a person could slowly mature, progressing from brahmacharya to grihastha, grihastha to vanaprastha, and then finally arriving at sannyas. But we find that people even at 60 and 70 are chasing pleasures, money, power, when they should be making place for the next generation. They are sitting over there and not allowing, and that's why there is an imbalance of society. We have created, hello, Mr. Desai, are you there with me?
Yes, I'm here, yeah.
And therefore the educational system, the political systems, the religious systems have created a society with such an imbalance. We are therefore not living a very healthy life. Do you see that? And hence that Varnashrama system was such an important system, that it was a non-competitive society. An old man didn't have to compete with the younger generation. A pot maker didn't have to compete with a cobbler. Yes. A Brahmin didn't have to compete with a Kshatriya, because Brahmin's job was defined. The Kshatriya's job was defined. The businessman's job was defined. And therefore, if they had to do anything, was to attain excellence in what they were doing without being competitive. Yes. We have lost a very important and a very wonderful structure of society, which otherwise would be the most appropriate way of living, in which this knowledge is possible, in which the maturity can take place as a result of just living in the society.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree to that. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Desai. So that is true. Samyatendriya is now that the structure of the society has collapsed, we have to look at personal lives than social lives. One has to follow this karma yoga with whatever field that he is living in. And all that one has to say is to recognize that the karma that I am doing is my offering to Ishvara. This is the only way that a person will be able to neutralize the ragadveshas. This is the way that the person will be able to bring the senses under control.
Yes.
Otherwise, a person would remain mad. You can see the leaders of the world, whether they are political leaders or religious leaders. Look, when they are not controlled, when their ambitions are not controlled, when their senses are not controlled, what have they created in the world?
Definitely.
What have they created? They promise, but what they deliver is only more and more misery. They are ignorant. And that's why we require people who are on the path of knowledge. We require people who are happy, who are satisfied, who are satiated, not people who are mad. Yes, Mr. Desai, you're right. Samyatendriya is a very important thing.
Thank you, Swamiji. That's very nice hearing you.
Thank you, Mr. Desai. Vibhaji.
Yes, there is one question in the question tag. I will just read it out. It is
Please.
from Mr. Prasad Vepa.
Okay.
Yeah. This simple truth you presented is so beautiful, but why is it so hard to remember the truth of this knowledge? It must be the destruction of raga dvesha. So eternal vigilance to overcome raga dvesha seems vital, as you say. Yeah, this is a submission from you. There's no question there.
Because Bhagavan Shri Krishna himself says that when this is so simple, why aren't people able to follow this? This is Arjun. Hello, Vibhaji.
Yes.
Hello.
I have
Can you hear me?
the speaker on, so I can hear you also, Swamiji.
Okay, Prasadji, you can speak. That would be good. I thought you don't have the microphone.
It just came on.
So, Namaskar, Prasadji.
I think
I have heard your question.
Well, it is just an observation. I think you pointed out. You said that the efforts needs to focus on removing and overcoming the ragadvesha through the sadhana. That is what sadhana is all about, through the other yogas. So, sort of my question is, if I think the verse cited is nahi jnanena sadrasam pavitram eha vidyate. So your knowledge is the highest means and the highest yoga. So the other three yogas somewhat secondary in preparing the person, or is it a function of like a situational relevance?
We have to
what stage and what probability you have, then you follow the appropriate yoga.
Wonderful question.
Yeah, he somewhat, cleverly says in the Gita, Arjuna repeatedly asking the question, he says, which is the best, which is the best? And he says, for you as a prince and a warrior, karma yoga, and he seems to hint that all yogas are equally valid. Do you have any comment on that?
Yes, sure. Please understand, when you're talking about yoga, it means sadhanam, correct?
Right.
It means sadhanam. When you are going to say it is a sadhanam, it has to have a sadhyam. That what is attained through the means.
Right.
The means and the end. Okay? Sadhanam means the upaya, sadhanam, the word sadhanam has got a meaning, the means, and sadhyam means that what is to be attained. And you have to understand that every sadhanam has got its own sadhyam. That what is attained by knowledge is attained by knowledge. That what can be attained by karma can be attained by karma alone. That what can be attained by upasana will be attained by upasana alone. And therefore, each of these are yogas, and each of these yogas have a very important place in our lives. Unless and until one has undergone the necessary discipline of upasana and karma, one is not qualified to receive the knowledge. And therefore, that upasana and karma is so important. And this upasana and karma has to be meticulously followed from brahmacharya to the vanaprastha. And then your pursuit of knowledge will become meaningful. Otherwise, your pursuit of knowledge will be only to satisfy the curiosity. Over here, it is not to satisfy the curiosity. Over here, Brahmajnanam is presented as the means of moksha. It is not meant to keep you informed. You cannot switch on Gita and Upanishad like a news channel. It has got a purpose. It is not meant to keep you informed. The very purpose is moksha, which means dukkhasya atyantika nivrittihi parama sukhasya vaptihi. And therefore, every yoga has got its own sadhyam. When we do not know what is to be attained by what, there is going to be a confusion. And in that confusion, we create theologies, we create theories, and finally the person has nothing in the hand. All that he has got is crystallized opinions and nothing more. Mr. Prasad?
Yes, that is very right. I see what you're saying. And I have a follow-on question. Today, in the world, as a householder, regardless of one's age, looks like, even though I'm in my eighth decade of my life, is vanaprastha really possible, or is it a luxury? I guess in olden days, or swamis who have kind of left the secular life, to them that is their way of life. But for most of us, vanaprastha is a luxury. We really are in the middle of the world, so all the right attitudes in everything that we do, and the right preparation through meditation, Raj Yoga, and all this, and the right attitude and work will be helpful. But we cannot walk away from our responsibilities.
No, you don't have to walk away from responsibilities. It means that you have completed the responsibilities. It means you have given your children, you have created such individuals who can independently live in life. Now, our interference in their life is not required. Whenever they require advice, we should be available, but not interference. And therefore, the person has taken a position of watching joyfully the children that he has brought up as independent individuals. If a person still feels anxious about his children who are 40 and 50, then you do not have the trust in your own children. Then what individuals have you brought up? As a parent, as a grihastha, then one has failed. So that what you say is true. Vanaprastha is a luxury. It is a luxury, and it is a time for you to enjoy it. What is wrong? It is a time for you to give yourself to higher pursuit. Now you no longer are going to be concerned about wanting to earn money, wanting to prove you are better than others. You have already done that. You have done with that childishness. Now you can very happily say, okay, if somebody wants to say he is better than me, let him say. No harm.
Very true, Swamiji. I've been very richly blessed for the last 40 years to the feet of so many teachers So in this 8th decade, so I feel very richly blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. Vibhaji.
Yes, there are no questions right now, Swamiji.
Okay, Vibhaji. So then shall we call it off?
Yes, we can do it. Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you, Vibhaji. Thank you very much.
And Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.